Hello, and welcome to a quick overview of different student recognition opportunities offered by LSU Communication across the curriculum. If you're watching this video, it's because you are currently an advisor to a Distinguished Communicator candidate, or you're considering becoming an advisor to a Distinguished Communicator candidate. Thank you, first and foremost, for caring about students' communication skills development. Secondly, what follows here is a brief overview to help you get acquainted with some of the different components of the Distinguished Communicator Medal Program and the recently launched in 2019 LSU Communicator Certificate. So let's get started. The LSU Distinguished Communicator Medal Program has been around for several years. It is one of the earliest programs that communication across the curriculum developed right around 2007-2008, so it's been quite a bit of time. The LSU Communicator Certificate was launched in 2019 in direct response to our increasing numbers of students that we reach through our communication intensive courses, in addition to a very intentional reflection on how we can simultaneously allow an increased number of recognition opportunities for students who are going through those communication intensive courses while maintaining the rigor and the mentorship relationships that students and faculty go through with the Distinguished Communicator Medal Program. So what we've developed after connecting with faculty, with alum, and with community partners to discuss the program is essentially a two-tiered structure. So this video will focus primarily on the Distinguished Communicator Medal, but what's valuable for you to know is that the certificate is actually a part of the medal. So you can make a choice to complete the LSU Communicator Certificate and to go no further, or you can choose to go above and beyond that certificate and continue to move into candidacy for the Distinguished Communicator Medal. So let's break that down a little bit. Okay. One thing that's valuable to note is that if you're the kind of person who has been working with CXC and you have bookmarked CXC web pages, this is a great opportunity for you to delete some of those earlier bookmarks and instead replace them with cxc.lsu.edu. And if you're specifically interested in the Distinguished Communicator program, you can add that little /DC to the end of it. So when you do that, you wind up over here. When you hit DC, you'll be at the Distinguished Communicator Medal Program, right? And you'll see there that we also have a page specifically dedicated to the Communicator Certificate. So this page has been recently updated to reflect the requirements for the Distinguished Communicator Medal Program, and I encourage you to take time to move through those. So we have program overviews, we go through the CI courses, which also includes that link to the Communicator Certificate. There are resources related to the ePortfolio. There's a calendar of events for the students to see different workshops. You can see that October of 2019 is a very heavy workshop for ePortfolio workshop development. Then we also see that we have spaces to meet the distinguished communicators, places where you can talk about the work that you were doing as a student, as a candidate in the medal program, and then also a couple of quick links for helpful tracking documents. One that is very valuable for both your students and you as an advisor is the personal tracking worksheet. We also have the independent CI course contract form, the student faculty advisor contract, and a few others as we scroll down. But let's take a quick look at the personal tracking worksheet. This is a form that the student will never officially be asked to submit to CXC, but which can help them make sure that they are moving through the program in all of the ways that they need to in order to be successful. It's also helpful for you as a faculty advisor to be aware of this form because it can allow you to best advise your student through the flow of the program. Now, they're going to do that mostly with a CXC representative who's going to help them make sure they're checking all these boxes they need to check, but it's nice for you too to know that it's there. So we have some different requirements for application. We ask them to do contracts with you. We'll talk about that in a minute. Different housekeeping meetings with CXC folks. We do ask them to complete the LSU Communicator Certificate. So that's that first stepping stone on the path towards becoming a medalist. Then completing the portfolio. And then after successful passing through the portfolio review process, preparing to accept your medal. So very, very exciting things indeed. Let's talk about it in a little bit more detail. So, The LSU Communicator certificate has requirements that look very, very familiar to the Distinguished Communicator program that you may have been previously familiar with, and that is by design. So, we know that thousands of LSU students work with hundreds of faculty members every semester to build communication, skills development inside the classes where they're already learning important content for their disciplines. So, we focus on writing, speaking, visual communication, and technological communication. And if you are teaching a communication intensive course, then you already know that in addition to learning the specific content for your field, you're also making some very specific choices about how you're helping the student understand what good communication looks like in that field. And because we value what you put into this and we value what the students are putting into this, we felt that it would be appropriate to build some form of official recognition structure so that the students would be able to talk with some depth about the work that they've been doing in those courses. And what we've done here is we've automated it so that when you certify your course and a student is enrolled in the course, CXC sends them an email saying, "Congratulations on your excellent taste in classes. You are in a CI course." What this means is that you can use these subsequent talking points we provide to articulate to others in your field or potential future supervisors or colleagues or collaborators exactly what communication means for you in the world you're trying to go into. And if you're interested in completing the certificate, this is how many more courses we would ask you to take in order to get there. Now, the way that we've structured this, as I mentioned, is very similar to the way you might have seen CI course requirement in the past. So ideally, a student is finding CI courses in their field and taking those courses that are already CI, that are already folded into their degree path. Now, one major difference that impacts the candidate, which has no impact on the faculty member, is that we ask the student to complete one written reflection when they complete all of their CI courses. And that's due in their final semester, the semester that they graduate. They can submit it earlier, but that is the absolute last deadline for them to submit it, would be the semester that they graduate. Now, let's say that they've gone through all of the communicator certificate requirements, or they see very clearly how they're going to complete all of those communicator certificate requirements, but they want something more. They're looking for a relationship with a faculty advisor that can extend beyond classroom mentorship and into a deeper, more substantive discussion about how they can customize everything that they as an individual are doing in order to really synthesize their articulation of their potential in the future career paths that they are going to be choosing, regardless of what those paths are, whether it's graduate school, some other kind of additional training, whether it's shifting into a postgraduate internship or a full-time position after school. They're looking for somebody who understands a little bit of their world, who can give them advice on how best to represent themselves to get there. So those students might choose to, above and beyond the communicator certificate, also successfully complete the review of the e-portfolio under their guidance of the CXC representative and a faculty advisor. And that's really where you come in. A student who wants to be a Distinguished Communicator medalist is going to be seeking you so that you can best advise them on how to put their best foot forward. Some of the biggest adjustments to the Distinguished Communicator Medal Program, as a quick recap, we just talked about the Communicator Certificate being something that was launched in 2019 to provide an additional recognition tier. This means that if students have taken all those CI courses, but for various reasons choose not to move forward into completing the portfolio, they still get to earn some kind of an official recognition from the university. In this case, it's in the form of a certificate that they receive at graduation. Another major change for the Distinguished Communicator candidate is that we've reduced the number of workshops they're required to attend, and we've made some adjustments to the way that they develop the portfolio and how you as the advisor and how the CXC representative and review panelist assess that portfolio. So in the past, we've had a required spoken sample as part of the portfolio, and the student could make a choice about how they submitted it. But now, as the result of this continued connection with various stakeholders, we've made the choice to have that integrated into the public-facing portfolio aspects, still with the customized elements that we have held on to since the inception of the Distinguished Communicator program. So as you have more questions about that, let's check in. A couple of quick FAQs for you. First and foremost, what is the deadline for a student to apply to be a part of the Distinguished Communicator Medal program? CXC advises that students with at least 3 semesters are encouraged to apply. The reason we hold on to that 3-semester rule and have grown increasingly likely to say no to the students who have fewer than 3 semesters left is because we've discovered that a minimum of 3 semesters is really optimal in order for that student to be able to successfully complete all the requirements for the program. That helps you make sure that you can put your time and energy into the student, and it helps the student make sure that they can put enough time and energy into the program to really do their best to ensure success. Next, how does a student get connected with a faculty advisor? CXC allows the student to make this choice. So the candidates choose their faculty advisor no later than 3 semesters before they graduate. Any faculty member or somebody with a similar standing is eligible to serve as a faculty advisor. And when the candidate and the faculty advisor agree to commit their time, they both sign a faculty advisor contract and submit it to CXC. You can get that contract by going to cxc.lsu.edu/DC, like I just showed you a few minutes ago. Here's an important thing to note about faculty advisors. CXC does not tell a student who their faculty advisor should be. Instead, we encourage them to find someone that they think they can have a good working relationship with, who understands the world that they are trying to go into. And I'll speak more about that now. So, what's the difference between a faculty advisor, a CXC rep, and a review panelist? A faculty advisor, it's somebody who kind of understands the world the candidate's going to go into. So you have a sense about the candidate's discipline and their projected professional arenas. And it doesn't need to be a perfect fit, but if a student's interested in early childhood education, for example, and you know about education, then you can probably give them some kind of informed advice about how best to represent themselves in their materials. A CXC rep is someone who guides the candidate through the process of completing the Distinguished Communicator program and through general communication practices. It's important to note here that while CXC reps have some familiarity with most of the fields that they are representatives for, we are by no means the experts. That means that my academic training might not be the academic training of the students. And so my job is not to be an expert in their field, but rather to be more of a generalist who can teach them about the process of translating the different forms of communication as appropriate for their audiences. But we respect the fact that the faculty advisor is the person who does have that disciplinary knowledge. So that's really something that's unique to the work that you do, and it separates a CXC representative from a faculty advisor. A review panelist is someone who assesses the DC candidate's portfolio during the final stages of the DC program. They have some familiarity with the candidate's field, meaning if you're in communication studies, an engineer is not going to review your portfolio, and vice versa. But it's important to note that from a CXC standpoint, they have no relationship with the student. They might know them because they taught them in a class, or they might not know them at all. But the student will never know who the reviewer is unless the reviewer chooses to reveal themselves. Now let's switch into what happens in these final 2 semesters for a candidate. In their second to last semester, they will have been working with you to develop their portfolio, and we send them a URL that asks them to submit their draft and then also to complete an electronic assessment. You receive both of those things as their faculty advisor. We also ask you to submit your own electronic assessment that we send you via email, and the CXC representative who works with the student will do the same. This is a vital part of the process because it allows for the student to receive documented feedback from you. Here's something to keep in mind though. In addition to that feedback that you are required to submit, the student is required to follow up with you to talk about the feedback that you gave them, and then they revise the portfolio accordingly. In their final semester, they submit their final portfolio as well as a Dear Reviewer letter that details the changes they made as a result of receiving that feedback. You, as the advisor, make a choice about whether you would pass or fail that portfolio, and if you pass it, then we forward that portfolio to the review panelist, who also uses the same assessment to make a choice about whether they pass or fail. If the student passes with a majority yes vote, they then graduate as Distinguished Communicator. And that's a super quick overview.